every year there are so many women that are now 40-50 million women that are getting to a stage where they're becoming menopausal, and that of course affects their work. What do you think is being done right now when it comes to these workspaces, corporates where women are there in leadership positions?
So I think if you look at it from a macro level, there's a lot that needs to be done. You look at our government initiatives. We're still trying to figure out how to reduce female feticide. We're talking about, beti badhao, beti bachao, beti badhao, so I think we've still not gone out of the fertility, reproductive sort of a phase, right? There are so many women. There are 150 million women today who are going through their midlife and menopause. They're not in focus. So I think there's a lot to be done at a macro level too. I see a number of companies and government initiatives, especially in Europe and the US, which have started because 40-50% of their population is menopausal. So they are putting in some of these, narratives, whether it's inside the companies, whether it's outside, to start grooming people, not just the women, but also their families and so on. I think in our country, I'd say that we are beginning to scratch the surface. I can proudly say that we worked with 20 corporates today with either awareness programs or holistic intervention programs, even at ELDA. And some of the initiatives that we've started is, first, educating women about menopause. But not just women, also educating the male counterparts. Because very rarely do men come to know that ye menopausal issues hain. What typically happens is you're able to identify a pregnant woman by the bump. And then you've heard so much about it in your family that there is a little bit of a consideration. But nobody told you that a 40-50-year-old woman is going to have hot flashes, she's going to feel lack of energy, or she's going to have mood swings, and there is a way to solve for it. So first step, I think all corporates really need to do is make people aware that menopause is real and the woman should not be suffering silently and alone. I think the second big thing is basically helping with interventions. See, self-care is one thing, of course, but not majority of us, our priority is everything and then us. So it's work, it's parents, it's in-laws, it's children. And then we say, okay, now I'm going to prioritize Swati, right? So I think the big gap, of course, is there. So the village, the community has to come together, and corporates need to start helping women with holistic health programs, right? Which is a combination of diet, your gynec health, your fitness issues, and so on. Now, the bigger challenge that I see over here is that men need to be sensitized from the very beginning. And this is slowly beginning to happen. There's a huge hue and cry about having more women in their boards. What is the representation of the board? What's the female representation of the board? Now, I think there are some of these initiatives that every big company is trying to do. But think about it. You've basically helped the woman, with 20 years of efforts. The lady has put in 20-30 years of experience in this. Now she's at her prime to do the best she can. But health-wise, if she needs some support, just like you would give it to someone who's gone through pregnancy or postpartum, I think it's very important for us to start extending that support as companies to our, menopausal women. And mind you, every second CXO that you will speak to, Souniya, even in your conversations, are going through some challenges, right? Some of them are trying to solve for themselves. Some of them are trying to seek help. So I think the big macro challenge here with corporates is education as well as holistic health interventions. Now I'll come down to families and say, the beginning is that we can start educating our sons, our daughters about the problems that we are having. We should definitely talk to our family members. Mother-in-laws and mothers should talk openly to the daughters and say, hey, you know what? I told you about pregnancy. Now I want to tell you about what you'll see in your 40s and 50s. So those open conversations need to start happening. We ran a campaign at ELDA called Menopositive, to really say what are the positives of menopause. Like some women said, I don't have my periods anymore. I don't have to worry about carrying sanitary napkins here and there. So I think some of these pluses that come in. And as a 40-year-old myself, I can tell you, I don't worry about things that I used to worry about in my 20s and 30s. I'm a lot more confident, yet vulnerable. So I think that level of self-confidence that comes in the 40-year-old women's lives or 50-year-old women's lives, it's important to encourage that. So a lot of family support and education is also needed. So I think these are the three areas where I'd say that there's a huge gap in India and globally. And there's a lot that can be done. The first few tiny steps have already been taken.